Well, it's officially time we crown the champ for the best budget build in the last 5 years. Well, we are finally down to number 1 in my 5-part series of counting down the top 5 best budget builds from 2021 now into 2025. So this is, if you've been following my channel for a long time, I started doing these like top 5s for the individual year, tracking kind of trends on Marketplace. But as time went on, we started to see some patterns. So now we're doing a 5-year cross section, and we are going to crown our champ today. But hey, if you're meeting me for the first time, I'm going to tell me this is straight 6-man. You're home for offbeat hot rodding, and yeah, this is a chance to help kind of someone out there find an entry-level hot rod, so that you're not going to have to spend a ton of cash on. And so with that, we are on number 1, which, as you've maybe guessed it by now, the Crown Victoria, or well, the Panther platform as a whole. So Lincoln Continentals and Mercury Grand Marquis. We'll get right into it. We will pull up the quote-unquote EA Sports player profile card, and let's get started. All right, as always, we start with platform availability, and this car obviously gets a 5-star. You can find this all over the place because, of course, everybody knows them as fleet vehicles from either being a cab or an ex-cop car. But if you take that aside, even they still made tons and tons. We're getting to the point where, if you think about it, if a 65-year-old bought a 2004 Grand Marquis in 2004, well, they're an 85-year-old person here in 2024 and only getting older. So they might be not of driving, it may not be safe for them to drive anymore. They may have stopped driving, and it may be time to unload a vehicle, or, unfortunately, all of us die. And so sometimes there's sons and daughters trying to sell the vehicles off of the estate. So there's just really a plethora of these to find in many different ways, shapes, and forms, and that is why they get such a high score. Okay, junkyard availability, used parts availability. This one's a little tricky, but we are going to go ahead and score it a 4. But you could maybe make the case for it being a 3 because, well, of course, the platform's notoriety for its reliability means that a lot of them aren't out to pasture yet because they keep going and going. That 4.6 with its 300,000 mile reputation oftentimes doesn't lend it to wind up in the junkyard. But, your cop cruisers get in accidents sometimes. And so yes, you will find them in the junkyards, of course, in some capacity, but maybe not as widespread as you'd think with the numbers produced for the factors aforementioned. And then not exactly a ton of, you do see the wheels, the steel wheels, of course, up on Facebook Marketplace all the time. I put a pair on my Project Low Fairmont, a set. So they're easy to come by for sure, but past that, I don't know that I see a ton of like H-pipes or suspension pieces or center or bucket seats or this, that, or the other. So again, you could probably make a case that this should really be a 3, but we're scoring it a 4. All right, engine modification. We are scoring this one a little lower than the previous categories for this particular reason. First, we'll start with the intake manifold point of comparison, like we've done with the whole series. And while I can't find an Performer RPM intake, here's a Victor Jr. intake, and you can see the price tag on that. But with the overhead cam engine, it's also one of those things not as easy to maybe a little more daunting of a task for a first-time hot rodder to do something like a cam swap, but they do exist. But what you find is the price point for some performance mods, take for instance headers, like $1,200 for a set of headers, really prices the beginner hot rod out of some simple bolt-ons, and there's the options out there, not super widespread, but they do exist. Now, again, having the sister Mustang having a 4.6 liter also means there's a good chance you can find used parts off of those guys. Not everything just works plain and simple. You may have to modify Mustang parts a little bit, but there's enough out there that yes, you can find things to make the Crown Vics go faster and without a ton of mechanical skills. So Again, about middle of the pack is what we're scoring this one. Brakes, steering, and suspension in a similar fashion to engine modifications. You know, if you had to tip the scales between the engine modifications in this category, I might give this one a slightly, you might weight it a slightly more. Like if one was going to be a 3.1, it would probably be this one. Just because there are definitely a myriad of options out there when it comes to suspension tuning for brake upgrades. The upgrade is like rack and pinion steering and things like that, but all of those are pricey. I would recommend you go to adtr.net to be your leading source for anything suspension modification on this platform, but be prepared to open up the wallet for a bit on these. But the good news is there are definitely options, and options galore. Well, hopefully you've enjoyed this whole 5-part mini-series. A little bit different than years past. We stretched it out, and again, like I said, it was getting to the point that it's a successful set of videos that I would annually do. But as we got here each year later, it was like really kind of felt like we were repeating trends. And so I just wanted to use this as a chance to say, look, now I've got 5 years of a cross section to look back on, and here were the trends that stayed true over the years, and I really do believe in these platforms. So if you missed any of them, by all means, go to my channel and check out numbers 4, 3, 2, 5, 4, 3, and 2. But if you don't, I'll give you the quick gist of it. So we went with Chrysler C-bodies, we went with first generation Dodge Rams, well, then we followed up with the Lincoln Mark 8, and then second place was the overlooked G-bodies, not the mainstream G-bodies. And then of course here we are talking about the Panther platform. But hey, I really hope everybody enjoyed these. Thanks for the people that have tuned into all 5. And again, hey, if you missed any of the last 2, we'll leave them over here. But you know what? Simply to all my 6 fans out there, thanks for watching.